I am at a point. I am at a point. What if I told you the light is coming to bring back everything the darkness stole? What then? What then? Guys, I have a sunlit confessional to make, and that is that I've relapsed. I was doing so well in my little self-imposed recovery program for my insecure overachieving tendencies. I think I've been relapsed for a while, but I was heavily in denial. I thought I was out of it, scot-free, and it wasn't until my therapist sat me down after a few too many sessions of me causing myself some undue suffering over my high standards and slapped a module for perfectionists on the virtual table that I got it. I realized, oh, I'm not recovered. And I was resistant at first. I was like, I'm not a perfectionist. I don't need to wipe my counters down 5 times a day. I'm not obsessive about my hygiene. I'm not a perfectionist in the gym. Like, I just get in there, do what I can, and get out. But then I thought about the things that I had brought up in my sessions with her that were giving me anxiety or that I was struggling with. I'd be like really concerned if only 6 people RSVP'd on my party full when 14 did last time. Like, I went to New York in October and a bunch of my friends there were talking about how a lot of the times on like a Saturday or a Sunday, they'll have like 3 plans in a row. Like, they'll have them stacked up. And before that, I thought once a day was plenty, a few times a week was enough. But then I was reconsidering. I would come out of this stand-up comedy class I took and be a little hurt if I didn't get like the most laughs of anyone that night. And I've only been doing comedy for like 4 months, but I'm already like, oh, I'm not booking any shows, so like, I must be circling the drain. I just picked up a couple of freelance clients, and I was genuinely really torn up about the fact that I only spent an hour before the meeting prepping, and I didn't do it further in advance. And I thought that made me a bad person, and I would get feedback from my other client with like questions of things I hadn't thought about yet, and I would be so sure that like, all right, I'm getting fired. This is the last month of me working with her. So somehow I had really crept out on a ledge with my perfectionism again. But I couldn't really feel, the wind blowing. I wasn't looking at how high up I was. I wasn't recognizing the danger until there was that moment of intervention, like, hey, we need to reset. There is some work to be done on myself, because my ambition is getting toxic again. Because I'm really tired of always feeling incomplete and like insufficient, and that there's a brighter ideal to be striving for. And it doesn't matter what the category is, this overachievementism, this perfectionism can surface in like any dimension of my life. So how did I get here, and what now? There is more confessing to be had, but first, I did want to mention that the set for today was generously donated by my sponsor, Brooklinen. I know you can't stop staring at these luxurious sheets, and I can't stop touching them. Let me tell you a little bit about them so you understand what I'm sitting on. Brooklinen, if you're not familiar, is a luxury sheets company, and they create high quality home goods to elevate your home. If you have watched up until this point, then you have been staring at their Luxe Hardcore Sheet Bundle in toffee and Tandem Stripe in cacao. That way it really activates 3 senses when I sleep. We got touch, sight, and the imagined taste of these 2 flavors together. But I have been religiously a white bedding person, but I'm starting to experiment with agnosticism and add some color. And Brooklinen has added a bunch of new colors on their site, so you can check it out when you use my link that's below. And you can also use the code Katherout for a discount of $20 on any order over 100. So you can see what combo fits your personal style. This textile is the Luxe Sateen. They call it buttery soft, and I would have to agree. And the set comes with 4 pillowcases, the flat sheet, the fitted sheet, and the duvet cover. And if you buy it that way instead of the individual items, you get 20% off the bundle. I trust that Brooklinen bedding is gonna hold up. I still have every item I've ever gotten from them. It's been 5 years and they're not worn at all. There's no competition for me. This is like my go-to.
Parlor games, one more time, just one more time.
So how did I get like this? Was I made or was I born? Well, if you've been around for a while, you don't know the answer to that, but you do know I've been. this way for quite some time.
So I ended up with like a 4.05 GPA, which is good. I'm glad. But I still need to do a lot of work if I want to get into like Ivy Leagues and stuff. Like I said, my school is really competitive, so that's why I'm talking about all this stuff. If you don't care, if you have a 3.5, that's like great. It's what is expected of you, but in my school, it's like if you don't have a 4.0, you're weird. So, and I don't want to come off cocky right now.
And that was kind of the first thing the perfectionism module had me go through, was like, what's my origin story? What's the prologue of why I am the way I am? And to quickly catch you up, if you're new here, which I've been making videos on this platform for damn near 12 years now, so the evidence is there. Okay, breaking news from the editing bay. My best friend Ellie, who I went to high school, just reminded me of exactly the type of overwrought perfectionist kid I was. She's a very private person, but I had her send an audio message, so here's all you need to know.
I think this story perfectly encapsulates what Catherine was like in high school. So we were in math class together our senior year, and I was not very good at math, let alone school. So me and Catherine would sit together, and we had just taken a calculus test earlier in the week, and we were getting our grades back. I turned to Catherine and I was like, I have a bad feeling about this one. And Catherine was pumping me up, saying, you got this, don't worry, like you studied for this, you're all good. I get my test back, and it was a D. And Catherine was like, oh, that's not bad, Ellie, like, that's totally fine, you'll be okay. And I felt comforted by that until Catherine gets her test back, and it was an A. And then Catherine looks over the whole test, realizes that some of the answers she could fight back for points, goes up after class to her teacher and successfully argues those points back to get an A+. So, like, to literally get the extra credit points as well, so that it was over 100% score. So that's the perfect example of Catherine in high school.
So yeah, I have always been wanting more for myself, and maybe even too much. That was my behavior, okay? Nothing was ever enough for me. I would go above and beyond. And then that transferred after I graduated and finished school to work, where I said yes to everyone. If anyone asked me to do anything, I would say yes, and I would do it immediately, and I would take my work home with me, and I really thrived on the praise for my accomplishments at work. But taking on so much did eventually catch up with me, and I started to rethink some things. Personally, politically, culturally, why was I so attached to my performance in those arenas? And for many of you, that's maybe when you discovered my channel, was my submission to the I Don't Dream of Labor theme. And then the next dot, as I'm connecting them, was that I would find reprieve by developing my own personal world order, like my own personal system of values, identify what really matters for me, not what I've inherited from like elitism. And I made a video about redefining success, like how do I really distinguish what's authentic to me and my vision for my life versus what has been fabricated, manufactured. I'd much rather attach my success to more, again, like nuanced things that are harder to measure, because maybe we shouldn't be measuring everything all the time. Things like creative fulfillment. I feel really good when I'm creatively fulfilled. Richness in friendships, like volunteering my labor in my community, taking care of my health, rest, learning. I can only speak to like what's been really harmful for me to attach myself to. Certainly my productivity levels, whether I have plans Friday night or not, how clear my skin is, my salary, how much I've accomplished compared to the Forbes 30 under 30 list, what people on the internet think of me, exercise, how my jeans fit. I'm a little tired of it. I'm a little tired of all that. Aren't we a little tired of this? Like, those aren't even very creative, fun, cool things to care about. So I was like, let me escape that, get off the narrow track I was on, and maybe go hiking in the backcountry for a little bit. And maybe I wasn't fastest on the highway anymore. I was focusing on things more aligned with myself in the woods, but somehow still I've gotten to a point where bushwhacking through BLM lands not cutting it, I need to do the PCT. And I'm not actually talking about the PCT. That's not one of my standards or goals. I'm just really referring to, like, I value community and creativity, hobbies, my connection to nature, my political work more than like the job, academia categories. But still, I'm like, what's the highest form of these categories? I'm kind of constantly asking myself, like, is this as good as it gets? Can there be better? And I'm almost craving, like, I kind of go into therapy hoping that she'll just burst my bubble and be like, nope, you've done it. You've maxed out. You've walked as far as you can in the woods, and you've reached the lake and you can eat your sandwich now. Like, I want to feel like there isn't like a more impressive trail I could be walking on. And as the sun is setting, it's time to move on. Isn't that nice when nature gives you a prompt? So yeah, I don't know if you've caught on to this by now, but I'm getting really tired of having fancy clothes in my closet when I just don't have the opportunities to wear them. So either somebody invites me to their wedding, or I'm just gonna keep dressing like this in videos. Okay, so now that I've caught you up with all that prelude, why am I singing this tune? I just couldn't figure out like why I was relapsing. I thought the song was over. It has been sung, but no, I'm finding myself whistling again. And I think I've reached like a measure of my life where these high standards are being emboldened by my utopian thinking. And what I mean by that is, like, politically, I think utopianism is really important. I think imagining like that a new world is possible is very important because we've been denied so much of that through capitalist realism, as Mark Fisher would say. And I'm really encouraged by it. Like, I felt like utopia would be, for example, like quitting my job and taking a year off. That was unimaginable to me my whole life up until the last couple years. And it's untenable unless you have a lot of savings, which 50% of the people in this country have very little of. So microdosing retirement was ridiculously utopian to me. I thought it would be utopian to live within a 10-minute walk to most of my friends. So I moved across the city to do that. And now I'm living in alignment with that utopian ideal. You see what I mean? Like, I thought having community with my neighbors would be utopian. I didn't have that at my last apartment, and I'm building that here. And I'm like, okay, like, I've really been living out my values, and I'm so proud of that. But I can't even fully appreciate it because my perfectionist brain is hijacking it by applying even higher standards to all of those things. I've just been putting so much pressure on myself to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. And even though it's things that I really believe in now, like my community and my hobbies and like my relationships, this, that, and the third, it's still not healthy to be pushing. I'm a pusher. I push myself. So if this perfectionistic mindset is causing me so much grief, then why haven't I given it up already? You know, because there are positives. These high standards have such a grip on me because I am such a hopeful person. Like, I believe we can always improve. Like, things are not fixed. They're very variable. It's not hard for me to stretch my imagination to think I can do something. And that's like a very redeeming quality. I am like the opposite of apathetic. I try. Taylor Swift's analysis for that would be because I'm a mirror ball. But I am not moored to like helplessness. I'm like, I can totally change my life at any given time. Like, I have so much agency, and that's a great place to operate from. And like, I have so much evidence of me changing my environment and radically shifting my life that like, I know it's possible to make moves. Especially in a time when cynicism and nihilism are so popular, I would rather be like this. I read this book called Everyday Utopia, conveniently for my Katherout book club that I do through Patreon. Plug! But I read this book called Everyday Utopia. what was interesting about that book is like there was an entire section up at the front that just like wasn't relevant to me. It was trying to convince people why they should adopt more utopian leanings and reject such a like static and inflexible view of the world. It's like we should be striving for that. And I was just flipping the pages like, yup, I got it. Like I didn't need to be convinced. I already have bought into that way of thinking, and I'm really grateful because it's a lot of work to get out of a spot where you're firm on that things cannot change, or if they do change, it's only going to be for the worse. Like most people have to stretch their imaginations to see utopia being a possibility, but for me, it's like very available. That's what I am scooping up all the time. But I took that too far. I'm holding an extremist position where I'm like, not only do I believe a better world is out there, I'm like, a better lifestyle for me individually is out there, and I need to be getting after it every damn day. And I need to be there now in every category of my life. It's very all or nothing, black and white thinking where everything needs to be optimal. But I think when I am this neurotic, I need to be okay with not everything changing and improving and turning over and upgrading all the time, because that's just not realistic. I think part of the dissonance here is also that while I've done a lot of work to like articulate my personal values, resisting like preconceived notions of what I should care about, my standards are still very susceptible to catching other people's. Like, for example, like I really care about prioritizing friendship and putting my social well-being above like my career success. But then, like I said at the top, I'll go to New York and hear that my friends who also care about those things are doing them at a more aggressive level. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize it was possible to go that hard in the friendship game. So apparently I'm actually not as strong of a player as I thought, you know? Like other people's standards are very contagious to me. I can easily catch them. Other people's ideal utopias get mapped onto mine. The most salient one right now being this endeavor here, like being a YouTuber. I have heard so many folks that I watch become full-time creators, and in those videos they're like, thank you so much for supporting me and getting me to this point. Like, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've had this dream for so long. This has been it. This is what I've been chasing. And I've just never wanted it like that. You know, like I have always done it as an outlet. It's been important to me that way, but it's never been like my singular goal to make this my living. And when I quit my job, the plan was to be principally unemployed. Like, of course, I was still going to be creating these videos and publishing stuff online. And yes, I earn money through that, but I had made no plans to like ratchet up how seriously I took YouTube. But when I see so many people, so many of my peers like striving for this, I'm like, wait, now that I don't have a job, is that what I should be doing? Like, am I supposed to be pivoting to trying to make YouTube a viable career? Like, and so I feel like I've kind of accidentally adopted their mindset where now I'm like stressed because I'm like, I don't make enough money to have this be a full-time job. And I've never had an upload schedule in my 12 years on YouTube. I haven't had subscriber goals since I was in high school, and we used to put them in the description of the video. Real ones remember that era, that age. I don't have any monetary goals with it because I've never had to rely on it as my core thing. I've never posted with the intent to build a platform that could sustain me full time. I've been on here since before it was even monetized. In 2011, the vision of being a full-time YouTuber, like, there was no economy around it. Like, there was no creator economy. That wasn't a thing, so like I couldn't even place that. I was just getting on there to share my outfits and chronicle my hidden life because no one at my school knew I did YouTube. It was an escape. It was my own little world. And as I've like plotted my course over these past almost 13 years, like I haven't been continuing so that I can follow this trajectory towards being a full-time YouTuber. I just do it because like I'm literally just called to do it. Like it's just a calling in that way. The video ideas keep coming even when I think that they've slowed down to a stop. It's like the well is filling up and I gotta like Fantasia style get my buckets and fill them up and pour the content out. Like it's almost like part of my own creative hygiene. Like it is like I am on YouTube for like hygiene, like creative hygiene. And I'm proud that like this has remained somewhat uncorrupted, relatively uncorrupted, whereas most of my pursuits do get imbued with this achievementism or profiteering motive or perfectionism. Like up until I quit my job, like this was a very jovial thing. But YouTube has gotten so entrepreneurial. I look around and like everybody that I know like has a merch company and classes that they sell and these new ventures that they're launching. One of the main harbingers for just how commercial YouTube is gonna get was these DMs from these little growth marketing gremlins trying to make my little art projects more profitable. Like the creator economy was a doomed venture. And I'm like, ugh. I've never wanted to have my own little empire. I've never wanted to be a startup. I've never wanted to be a small business owner. I've never even dreamed of being self-employed. This whole time I've been trying to place myself as like underemployed, but I think people see me as like self-employed, so I've just like slotted myself in there, but I'm not fitting in the groove. I'm not fitting in the groove. And yet these goals and these standards are on me and I'm like, wait, I never even wanted to be here. Like, it's dissonant. And I feel almost like stupid. I'm like, why wouldn't I want to be a full-time creator? Like so many people want that. And like, I'm closer than a lot of people. And I'm just like, not interested in putting in the work to get there. Like I'm literally just not. I like what I do on here. I like the way I do it. And I wish that it made me enough money to live decently off of, but it doesn't. And I feel very challenged trying to accept that when everyone else around me is trying to grind to make the dream of full-time creating a reality. But it's not my dream. I feel like it's one I've just absorbed through osmosis. So I just spend a lot of my time feeling like I'm doing something wrong because I haven't made this into what other people have made this into. Usually I am such a determined person. Like I know what I want and I'm determined to get it. But it's been almost 2 years of being like part-time self-employed and it still hasn't clicked. Like usually I'd know if I'd want this by now and I'd be putting in the work to get there. And I actually think a lot of it is I don't want people to judge me by other people's standards. Like just because they think this number of views and this number of uploads and this amount of money and these streams of income are what you should be striving for doesn't mean that I should be held up to that. Okay, let's finish her up.
Finish him.
So how do I remain utopian without hijacking it with perfectionism or letting other people's high standards creep in? Well, I can't. Now, maybe I can. I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know. I think acknowledging and accepting the place that I'm at is first. Took me long enough to get here, and I'm not gonna see myself out anytime soon, probably. I think number one would be interrogating my standards, like when I am feeling the compulsion to meet a high expectation or the feeling that I'm operating at a deficit and I'm like beneath my ability or my like potential. Like, where is that coming from? Whose voice is in my head? Is it my own? And if it is my own and not somebody else's that I shouldn't just be scooping up, well, is that standard realistic or helpful? Or is it just a toxic amount of ambition that's making me spin my wheels more than actually get somewhere? And I've tried, now that I'm working a couple of like freelance jobs, I've tried to adjust them down. And I've noticed that like actually meeting a lower standard at times makes me feel like a bad person. Like If it's something that I actually care about, even though nobody is calling me a bad person, nobody is complaining, I will preemptively just judge myself and be like, oh, you're worse off because you're not as reliable or responding as fast or like as focused as you could be. But it's like, you know what? If they're not expecting perfection, why am I trying to deliver it? If they're expecting perfection, that's another issue. That's another issue. And that's part of like why I'm trying to repair this relationship to achievement, because I'm like, I don't want my standards to rub off on other people. I don't want them to feel like they have to be perfect for me to like see them as redeemable, because I'm like, that's not the way I operate. Like, very rarely am I seeing someone as a complete flop. I've also started a nice little practice inspired by somebody I met once for 4 hours to jot down a few things I did every day, because it helps me remind myself that like I am observing my values, like I am committing to what I deem is important. And like if I am wallowing thinking that this past week I didn't do what I'm supposed to do, well, it's like, okay, let's look. I actually did so much. I'm just discounting it all because my standards are egregiously high. But seeing it fill up the little calendar box, it's like, well, literally can't do more than that because it wouldn't fit in the box. You know, it's like the box is actually the container that I should be trying to fill. I'm usually looking for like a IKEA bag of a container to fill. And I'm like, that is too damn big. And finally just acknowledge that like there is no point of arrival. There is no like juncture where I will know I'm at the end of the track and like that's as far as I can get with like living out that value to like its fullest. You know, like there is no completely full. It's like we move. And there's this great quote by Eduardo Galeano where he says, "Utopia is on the horizon. I move 2 steps closer, it moves 2 steps further away. I walk another 10 steps and the horizon runs 10 steps further away. As much as I may walk, I'll never reach it. So what's the point of utopia? The point is this, to keep walking." Love. Profound. Okay? And Kristen Godsey, the author of Everyday Utopia, says that like utopia is a lodestar. It's a place you're looking towards, not necessarily a place you want to go. A horizon. It's a generative, creative place. It's not meant to be final. And I'm gonna write those up, stick them on the wall, because those two distill to me that like I need to enjoy the process. It's about being on the path. It's not about getting to the finish line. And ultimately, like I am grateful to be pulled towards these further poles and feel like there's more out there for me, because that's a hopeful place to be. I don't regret the things I've pursued in my life. Well, I actually do regret some of them. I actually do. That could be another video. But like, I can hold both things. I can hold utopia and moderate my standards for myself. And now it's time to clock out of Navel Gazing Headquarters. Let me know what things you're perfectionistic about in the comments. I would love to see, maybe there's some things I didn't even know I was perfectionistic about that you bring up. And since this is my first video in a while, if you could give it a thumbs up, that'll help restore my reputation on YouTube. Check out the link for Brooklinen for some sweet sheets, and come talk shit with me on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next time, and Katherout. I'm gonna